Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Josie's Point of View, where we focus on human interest stories from the Carolinas and beyond. Today it's Friday and it's September the 17th, 2021. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I'd like to extend to you a warm welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find the information here to be informative. And if you're a returning viewer, by all means, thank you for coming back. I always say the tide changes so frequently on these YouTube streets. It changes from 1 second to the next. So you have to understand and you have to appreciate where your support comes from. And I want to tell you that I thank you so much for your support. Please feel free to like and to share this video, and of course I'd appreciate if you take a second and just subscribe to my channel and offer me an opportunity to grow, and thank you so much in advance. Our topic for today is entitled Firefighter and a Caregiver Charged After a Toddler and an Adult Patient Die in Hot Cars. We hear about children being left in cars far too often these days, and it's like a cycle just keep repeating itself because we don't seem that we're able to control the problem. But one of the things we don't hear too often is when the victim is an adult and the outcome is the same. But it does happen, and I wanted to highlight just that in this video. So today my objective is to provide two recent cases from our area, and they both are very heartbreaking because in each case there was a defenseless victim who did not survive. We're focusing on one adult and one toddler, and then I want to share my perspective on the charges they are facing. So I'll provide you with a summary here, and as always I'll place links to a few of the full articles in the description box. So the first case comes out of Fayetteville here in North Carolina. Take a look at that headline. And it reads, Fayetteville firefighter charged after son left alone in hot car for hours. And for the first case here, we're talking about this young man. His name is Wayne Nesbitt, age 36, a resident of Fayetteville, and he currently works for the city as a firefighter. Well, he was formally charged with involuntary manslaughter on Wednesday of this week, and the circumstances dates back to an incident which took place on September the 5th, which was about 12 days ago. And you know, this is a very sad case, and initially I was very judgmental, but as I become more aware of the circumstances, I softened a bit, and then I began to empathize with this family and the responsible adult who's being charged. And you'll understand what I mean in a few minutes. And this is what has been reported on this case. On September the 5th, police responded to the Nesbitt's family home after being notified of an emergency involving their 17-month-old child. When the police arrived, they found the toddler unresponsive inside the car. So let me pause here for a second. If you find the child inside the car, why did you wait for the police to get there before you took the child out? And you're a firefighter, fully trained to deal with heat-related injuries. Seems to me, if you find your child inside a hot car, the first thing you would do is immediately take the child out. I'm just saying, that's what I would have done. I definitely would not have left my child in the van and wait for the ambulance to come unless it was obvious from the start that there were no signs of life, but I would still have dragged that child out as I am screaming for help, and especially since they say this man is a firefighter. There's no damn way I would have left my child in that car, in that vehicle. So now, clearly, you see how initially I was a bit judgmental because things did not seem to be making sense to me from the beginning. Nonetheless, police found the child unresponsive inside the vehicle. According to reports, the family indicated they had gone to church that morning, and when they returned home from church, apparently there was a misunderstanding about who was going to take the child out of the car. And again, I had a bit of difficulty understanding that statement. But when I read that the baby has 11 brothers and sisters, it started to make a bit more sense. I then began to gain a bit more clarity about how this oversight could have occurred. Believe me when I say I get it. Going to church with several children, especially if they're very young, it can pluck your last nerve sometimes. And it seems as if the kids take on a different personality when they're away from home. And I could just imagine that parent being so flustered and stressed and needed to get inside the house in a hurry. Somehow there was confusion about the little one, and he was accidentally left in the car. And the district attorney has decided that the parent was directly responsible for that child's well being, and rightfully so. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter and given a $100,000 bond. Please feel free to like and to share this video, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. And our next case takes us to about a 2-hour drive up the highway to Greensboro, right here in North Carolina. Take a look at that headline. And it reads, Greensboro woman charged after cerebral palsy patient left in hot car for hours. And this case has really left me shaking my head, but this time we're focusing on this woman. She's 29-year-old Bria Askew. She lives in Greensboro, and last month, I believe it was August the 23rd, when she was formally charged with second-degree murder for her actions earlier that month. And according to reports from the High Point Police Department, Askew was the caregiver for a 21-year-old woman with special needs. It was stated that woman had a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, and because of this diagnosis, she was totally dependent on her caregiver for all aspects of her care. Well, this 21-year-old victim had been left unattended in a car without air conditioning for 5 hours. Police say the victim was taken to High Point Medical Center with an extremely elevated temperature. The report stated the victim's temperature was over 110 degrees. However, a short time after being taken to that hospital, she was pronounced dead. Now, it was reported that the Police Special Victims Unit conducted an investigation of the death, and based on the information they received, they were able to determine that the victim, now we're talking about this 21-year-old woman with cerebral palsy, that she had been left unattended in a car for 5 hours, and this car did not have any air conditioning. Makes you wonder, was the windows up? Was the windows down? It doesn't even matter. Now, this was the first week in August, so you know the temperature was seasonably high, and she was just left outside in a hot car, and she had someone who was being paid to take care of her. We certainly know that she did not have any water or anything to drink during that time. It was further determined, I'm sure by a autopsy report, that high heat and humidity contributed to the victim's death. So approximately 2 weeks after the incident, I believe it was on August the 23rd, Askew was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. She was taken to the Gifford County Jail in High Point, where she's being held under a $200,000 bond. Makes you wonder what she was doing during those 5 hours when that victim was sitting in that car unattended. Especially, this should have been her only priority. I read somewhere that says that she was the night nurse. Well, if she was the night nurse, I'd hate to think this patient was sitting in that car for 5 hours during the night. Nonetheless, she was charged with second-degree murder and given a $200,000 bond. And the High Point Police Department did issue a public release statement confirming her arrest and the specific charges she's facing. So there you have it. 2 cases where 2 lives were lost in such a senseless manner, because in both instances they could have been avoided. The key is, what are we going to do about it? And let me say, I am not supporting one as opposed to the other, because in both cases there's a certain degree of negligence, even though I may empathize a little bit with the first one, but I'm definitely not condoning it. I do not support either one of it. And the question is now, what are we going to do to prevent our children and our adults from dying in hot cars? Because this is proof. It's not just happening to our children, it's happening to adults as well. And as I was completing my research on the subject, I discovered that in our state, the North Carolina House of Representatives had taken specific actions aimed at eliminating future hot car deaths. And in July of this year, they had approved a bill called the Hot Cars Act of 2021. And specifically, this Hot Cars Act requires car manufacturers to install technology that helps to prevent children and pets from being left in hot cars, and I hope they include adults as well. The system, when installed, would alert drivers, passers-by, and even police if a child is left in a vehicle. And while this seems like such a great idea, I just wonder if we need to establish better laws that places more accountability on those involved. Because to me, the more we impose directives on manufacturers, who are not the reason why the kids are left in the cars in the first place, all it's going to do is to increase the selling price, hitting us in the pocket. Seems to me more focus should be placed on the responsible individual. I don't know. I'm just saying. But then again, those in power are definitely trying to do something to reduce unnecessary debt. So in a few years, it would be nice to go back and look at this problem to see if anything has changed. And that's all I have for you right now. Feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video. And by all means, feel free to like it and to share it. And if you haven't done so already, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on this notification bell right here, you'll be the first to know whenever a new video is uploaded. I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.